Hey, it's Chris, and today I've got a little photo comparison for you from the Pixel 4a, which is basically a really great camera attached to a very basic phone, versus the iPhone SE, which is a really great all-in-one package with an older design, including a great camera. So I wanna give you a little more detail and go beyond the basics of what everyone kind of expects, which is that the iPhone is gonna have warmer looking photos, while the Pixel generally shoots cooler looking photos. And the iPhone maybe is a little flatter, while the Pixel typically has a little more contrast and maybe adds a little extra sharpness. So let's start out with something really basic. You got a Pixel shot of my new shoes on the left and an iPhone shot on the right. Right away, you can notice that the colors do seem to pop more on the iPhone. Look at that orange. Both of these are unedited. And in general, the iPhone picture just seems to be a little bit brighter and happier. And actually, the iPhone photo seems to have picked up more detail in the upper part of these Flyknit shoes. But what's kind of interesting is if I zoom in to the top of this left shoe, pay attention to that brick area. The Pixel actually picked up a lot more detail in the bricks themselves and in most of the rest of the shoe. So if I had to say, I think the Pixel is clearer and shows more detail in more of the photo. But overall, and I think this is a trend you're gonna see in most of this video, I actually, if I'm standing back at a distance and I'm not looking too closely, I like the iPhone photo the best if I just had to pick them both out of a lineup. Next up, check out this photo of a crosswalk that I snapped. Now, again, I'm just gonna say, the Pixel's on the left, the iPhone's on the right. Immediately, I like the colors of the iPhone the best. Looking at the crosswalk itself, the black is a little bit blacker in the paint, the blue is a little bit bluer, and actually in this instance, the iPhone seems to have picked up quite a bit of detail, although I do think that maybe there might be a little extra detail on the Pixel. But in this case, where I usually expect the Pixel to have more contrast, the iPhone actually has quite a bit of contrast. Where things do get a little more interesting though is in the top left corner of this photo. The bricks have almost disappeared here in this shadow, whereas they're very clear to make out on the Pixel. Both of these photos look very good. I still kind of like the saturation and the coloration of the iPhone better at first glance, but the Pixel certainly has done a better job of capturing more detail. All right, in this next photo, we have your mandatory flower picture. But what's interesting here is that we have a blurred out background. And that's one thing that really stuck out to me on this particular photo. Again, with the Pixel on the left here and the iPhone on the right, the Pixel has a more pleasant bokeh effect. I think it's more of a computational thing rather than a hardware thing, but it's a lot softer, the blur, the edges. On the iPhone, it's a little less creamy, a little less blurry, and things are still more defined in the background. Here's a look too at what the bokeh balls look like, if you will. With the cell phone, you're just not gonna get the same kind of a bokeh ball effect that you would with like a full frame mirrorless camera, let's say. But still, this does give you a little bit of an idea of what that might look like if you get some lights in the back and blur those out. Obviously, again, the iPhone photo is more colorful, it's more saturated, it's a little bit warmer, and once again, I do like that overall look better. Whereas the Pixel is just cooler in color temperature, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a little more drab, a little more dreary, I think. This was a nice bright day, and that doesn't come through as much on the Pixel photo. Now, if we zoom in on this actual flower, the Pixel does look very sharp and very crispy, but you have to say the iPhone photo, it just pops more. I think it really does. I will point out that the Pixel has produced less noise in the dark area of this photo, whereas the iPhone does have more noise visible. But for all the clarity and detail that the Pixel is known for, I'm actually really surprised the iPhone really picked up a lot of detail. And it's very noticeable, very comparable actually, between these two photos on the stem of this flower. And really, this is all very subjective. My preferences are definitely gonna be different than yours potentially, but I would say oftentimes it's gonna come down to your style too. If you're gonna go post this on social media and not do any editing, or very little editing, you're probably gonna prefer the iPhone photos most of the time because they're just gonna look great right out of the camera with Apple's processing. Whereas if you're gonna go in and do some editing, then you're gonna appreciate having a little bit less noise maybe. And if you're really gonna dig into your photo edits, then yeah, the Pixel may be the better option for you. All right, now here's a picture of a hoop that I found while I was walking around. This is pretty interesting to me. If you look at the sky in the Pixel photo on the left, and then look at the sky on the iPhone photo on the right, can you notice the difference? The sky is much darker around the hoop on the iPhone photo, and it's a lot more even around the hoop on the Pixel. You're really picking up some different blue colors on the iPhone here, and that's a little bit weird. Whereas on the Pixel, it's much more uniform. It's truer to life. And that is, I think, a good feature of the Pixel. The way that they've tweaked and tuned this camera is that it's going to be a lot more even. The hoop here is a little bit softer in this one section. I don't know if that's down to like a smudge on my lens. I honestly don't know. So just to be fair, we're gonna zoom in on the bottom right down here. And you can see right away that on the Pixel photo, those bricks down in the bottom corner are very clear compared to the iPhone, which is a little bit more noisy, number one, and less defined, number two. So if you're looking for clarity throughout all of your image, I think the Pixel 4a is definitely emerging as the winner. All right, now this is an interesting picture. Again, the Pixel's on the left, iPhone is on the right, and what do you notice? The Pixel, in this case, seems to be the warmer temperature to me, while the iPhone seems to have the cooler color temperature. More often than not, the Pixel runs cooler in its color temperature and the iPhone runs warmer, but I don't think that's the case here. And also, I'm a little bit surprised that when we zoom in, I feel like that background texture is a little bit more detailed on the iPhone than it is on the Pixel, which again is counter to what my thoughts were going into this comparison. In terms of colors though, I do think that the colors still pop better and more on the iPhone versus the Pixel. This is a nicer green. I think maybe, I know The Verge is always saying that the Pixel seems more lifelike, but in this case, to me, it also seems just grungier, dirtier. It's not as nice of a photo. And let's be honest, whenever there's photo editing happening, whether that's you taking a photo and then putting it into an editing program and making some edits, or whether it's your phone and the algorithm tuned by a company like Google or Apple that's doing some automatic editing for you and processing, there's no such thing as this photo is 100% lifelike. There are interpretations being made, and so who's to say what is the most lifelike? In this photo, my personal preference leans towards the iPhone. I think it's a nicer overall picture. All right, iPhone on the right, Pixel on the left, and wow, I'm surprised again, the iPhone, I think clearly has picked up more detail on this brick that is the main focus of this photo. If nothing else, it's very close, if not even. Now again, when I zoom into the top of this particular building in this shot, I think you can see that the edges are a little less clean. They look a little worse on the iPhone than they do on the Pixel itself. There's just a little less distortion or aberration. It's smoother, it's tastier, it is more enjoyable, the way that the Pixel blurs out certain elements in the photos. Okay, Pixel on the left, iPhone on the right. I can already tell, and you probably know what I'm gonna say, I like the way that the iPhone photo looks the best right out of the camera. That sky is deliciously blue, and it's a little bit grungy and depressing. I don't feel like that's what the sky looked like on this nice, bright, warm, sunny day, hot day in the Pixel photo. That just doesn't represent what this day felt like to me. If we get in here real close to the train though, I think it's very obvious that the Pixel has less noise in it, both in this lettering here than the iPhone does. That's pretty noisy, a little less clean. And then in this light, you can really tell there's just more noise in the iPhone picture when you get up close. And even on the edge up here, that's more detailed than the edge of this train car in the iPhone photo. And if I zoom in on this building here off to the left, just as we've come to expect from this video so far, you can make out more detail in the bricks in this building on the Pixel than you can on the iPhone. And here to me, when I zoom in on this plant leaf, there's more detail, it's sharper, there's more contrast on the Pixel image, clearly. There's less contrast over here, but it's a nice color. And if you zoom all the way in to where you can actually see individual pixels, you can see that the edge of this particular leaf holds up better on the Pixel than it does on the iPhone. So if I could give a summary of this image, I would say Pixel, clearer, more detailed. The interpretation of the iPhone and Apple's algorithm makes me enjoy this Apple photo better than this Google photo. Okay, Pixel's on the left, iPhone's on the right. It's close, but I think I like the Pixel photo better again, actually. Look at the sky, look at the difference. The iPhone sky is really washed out and it's not looking good at all. Now in the darker area at the bottom of the sign, I think that the iPhone actually exposed this better. I can see those details a little bit better on the iPhone. The iPhone actually did a pretty good job with the detail on the bricks this time. Here's that tree area for comparison, and the sky is bordering on being blown out on the iPhone. So overall for this one, I think for sure I would take the Pixel photo unedited any day. All right, well, let's wrap this up with the photo comparison between the portrait modes from the front-facing selfie cameras. Once again, the Pixel's on the left, the iPhone's on the right. Once again, I do prefer the warmer, more saturated color exposure and temperature of the iPhone over here versus the darker, less happy exposure of the Pixel. Now, I gotta say, portrait mode photos often don't look good. They just kind of mess up the edges. They improve a little bit year to year, but I think the iPhone did it best here. When you zoom in on my right ear, you can clearly see where the Pixel just botched the edge detection there, and the iPhone really nailed it. In fact, as I'm looking around the edges of my face and my shoulders and my shirt on both photos, I don't think the iPhone messed up at all. I think it actually did a really, really good job with its edge detection. When it comes to the hair, which is notoriously tricky to mask, whether you're doing it by hand in Photoshop or whether you have an algorithm like this, I think the iPhone actually handled that better too, when it's going between what needs to be blurred and what doesn't. The Pixel didn't even try to blur the little spaces in between my hairs, whereas the iPhone did. It added some blur in there. In terms of detail now, when I zoom into the face, and sorry to do this to you, nobody likes to see pores and stuff up close, but really the iPhone did capture more detail. You can just see it instantly. All right, so that's it for the side-by-side photo comparisons. We're gonna wrap that part up. I think the Pixel 4a camera is great for photos. If that's really what you care about the most and you're gonna do a lot of editing for your social media or whatever, that might be the phone for you. Overall though, I don't think it's such a jump that it could justify not getting the iPhone SE over the Pixel, because the iPhone SE camera, as you can see, really hangs in there, holds its own, is better in a lot of situations, and I think the iPhone SE is a better overall phone by far than the Pixel 4a. Pixel 4a is a great phone. It's capable, it does do the basic things that you need a phone to do on top of having a really nice camera, but just having a great camera, it's not enough for me to recommend it, I don't think, overall over the iPhone. But that's just me personally. I will say that the iPhone SE is hands down better when it comes to video stuff. If you're gonna be doing any kind of YouTube stuff or even maybe some indie filmmaking stuff on a budget, then you absolutely, definitely, positively have to go with the iPhone SE. It's so capable as a video machine, just better. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out. Let me know which photos you like better from each and which ones you liked better overall down in the comments. Don't forget to check out applehype.com. Don't forget to check out the After Party. That's the podcast, comes out every Friday. All that stuff's linked up down below. You can check out @DailyTech, spelled Daily Tekk, on Instagram and Twitter. And by the way, a little bit of personal news. Apple recently just featured me on their website in the Final Cut section. So check that out. I'll link it up down below too. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.